Good evening. Welcome to Tip Tuesday together. My name is Georgina from GEG Man, and this evening we have a very special guest joined by the lovely Rachel Kothup. So Rachel, I let you go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you. So hi everyone, my name is Rachel. I am the lead teacher for technology and learning at a primary MAT, so almost like a small district just out of London in the UK.
Wonderful. And we are so excited to have you all the way from England, and welcome to Tamina, who's joining in the chat as well. And to all of our other viewers who may be watching after the show as well. We have an exciting short Tip Tuesday today. We wanted to invite Rachel on. I know here in Amman, Jordan, we're going to be starting a little bit more comprehensive lockdown from next week, where we're inside a little bit longer than just a day or two. And so it allows us more time for things like professional development or professional learning. So Rachel, we're so lucky to have you because I know that you've been working so hard on curating a super awesome resource for educators to be able to increase, explore, discover and skill up their professional learning. So I thought we'd invite you on and you could share all about your Google Innovator project. So I'll pull that up on screen and then you can let us know about this wonderful project of yours. Okay, all yours.
Thank you so much. So Badge Tech sort of came about. I'll give you a bit of a backstory for those that have never sort of followed my story, know a little bit about me. But I started as a classroom teacher. And when I started as a classroom teacher, I found technology just simply because I had a lot of SEND children in my class that weren't accessing the curriculum. They would sort of sit in my class and not actually be able to sort of complete any of the tasks that I set for them. Didn't matter how much I differentiated it, they still couldn't access it. So technology actually allowed me to show their learning and show the progress that they were making. So it was a really sort of exciting and emotional moment when that happened, and I suddenly had pieces of work that I didn't have access to prior. And then all of a sudden it was sort of, I moved over from Australia, if you didn't get by the accent, and took on a role as a computing teacher. And I had sort of, beyond my sort of love for using technology in the classroom, I didn't know anything. So I started initially just by completing my Google Certified Educator Level 1, and then a few weeks later, my Level 2. And then what I actually started to find was that all of the EdTech badges that were out there, so I started to complete one or two. And what I did in the process was actually learn even more about the tool. So I thought, if you've ever used any EdTech apps that are out there, things like Book Creator, Flipgrid, Wakelet, there are so many out there, but any of those apps that you use, even if you think you use that tool all the time, you know everything about it, there are still so many amazing ideas. So I wanted to actually pull all of those different EdTech certifications that you can do and house them in one easy spot that teachers could find. So it's broken down into badges, which are really simple, quick tasks that you can complete. They usually take around 30 minutes to 1 hour, and there's not a big expectation to go through and complete a big, huge exam. So it's just a nice, quick way to sort of learn how to use a tool. And then we sort of move into the certificate section. Now, this sort of builds on those badges and starts to have that next level of expectation. So it could be attending a webinar. It could be completing several units. It could be going and attending a session. It varies from EdTech to companies. And then we go into the accreditation section, which is very much looking at sort of things where you have to apply, you have to be accepted. So that's things like Google Innovator, it's different ambassador programs as well. And there's also a students section as well. So if you have students, it's usually tiered towards sort of 13 plus students, but there are badges specifically based around them as well. And what I try and do is I try and have a company or EdTech brand that I feature for the week and do a big sort of shout out to them and the different programs. So this week it's been Wakelet. We're looking at sort of their community member, community leader, and then the community ambassador. So that's that badge, certificate, and accreditation. And we sort of, as a trust, we try and encourage our teachers to go through and complete this, because all of the different programs are broken down into really achievable programs to work through. So you can see here that these are all of the different ones that you can go on to. If, for example, I go on to Edpuzzle, you can see here that when you click onto it, it's broken down into the time, how long roughly it's going to take you, what your requirements are, how long your certification is valid for, and then maybe some next steps, some benefits, because who doesn't love swag after all, and then sort of that impact on learning. Often whenever we complete CPD, we always have our teachers or senior leaders asking, okay, so why? What is the big benefit of completing this? And, you know, it's always sort of worth saying that actually by completing these different EdTech badges and certifications, you really start to understand how the different tools work. So I know I've been talking, so I'll come back to you.
No, this is perfect. And actually it's such a powerful space. It's I love how your icons in your website are so easy navigatable. It's not, I don't think it's possible for anybody to get lost. It's so user friendly, Rachel. And we definitely promoted at our school, and I know that I've seen it promoted obviously across other schools. Rachel, I'm curious because we were chatting about that the other month about the reach. How far has your reach gone for your lovely Google Innovator project?
Yeah, so my site has almost hit 8,000 unique educators around the world. And it's almost hit sort of everywhere on the map, but there's still a couple of countries that I haven't hit yet. And it's had, I think, 12,000 views as well. So
it's incredible. And so guys, if you would like to share this out with your school communities, I'm sure Rachel would be super happy and grateful. So we're going to go ahead. I'll pop that link up on the banner in just a second here. Rachel, I wanted to ask you, because we were talking about impact for learning, and often in education technology, we talk about, you know, it starts with pedagogy and the technology comes after. And I think the fact that you have a whole section on how it's going to impact learning is such a powerful tool. So if you're an educator, or if you're a parent looking to provide these tools to teachers, if you're in one of those communities where the stakeholders are shared amongst the community, definitely share these with your school leaders. Let them know that teachers can take these. I know in online learning in lockdown right now, there's a really it's almost like a shift where teachers are moving towards that self-paced, autonomous, and really taking ownership of their own learning, right? And so Badge EdTech is a brilliant place for teachers to be able to do that, as well as leaders, right? Leaders want to hop on board and be skilled too. And I know you work, you were saying you work at a trust, Rachel. Do you find that a lot of leaders in your area, like in the UK, are participating as well? Do you know?
Yeah, so our sort of trust CEO has really led the way, and he's actually gone and became a Google certified trainer as well. So I think it is really important that actually our senior leaders are leading the way and are earning those certifications, because ultimately, you know, whether you've gone through and completed an undergraduate or a postgrad, or you're going on to continue to do your master's or your doctorate, you are continuing to learn. And as teachers, that's why so many of us enter the career and the profession, is because we love learning, and, you know, we want to share that. So actually, by continuing to upskill yourself, you're continuing to share that message of I am learning, I am continuing to refine my practice. And it's worth mentioning that, you know, all of the badges and certificates are all free to complete. So there isn't any cost involved either, which is amazing. You know, I think there's one application that falls under the certificates that is paid, and it's more so that you have to have the paid subscription of the app rather than, but as always, I always recommend to teachers to choose the badges and choose certificates and accreditations that they use every day. Don't just sort of pick sort of any random badge, but actually find the tools you're using, find the tools that maybe excite you, and then think, how can I use this in my classroom? as
I love
well.
that whole idea of scaffolded approach to professional learning, Rachel. And I wanted to ask you, maybe you can help us out. How would we go about that? Like, where would a teacher start? So let's say a teacher's using Screencastify to provide some pre-recorded content for some of their lessons. Where might they go think about going next to personalize their experience on your site?
Yeah, so if you were looking for Screencastify, then you can definitely just jump into the badges section. You could also just go into the search bar at the top here and quickly search for it. But what you'll see here is that there are 3 Screencastify badges that you can complete. So especially if you're getting started, I'd recommend either going through and using the Certified Genius or Master the Screencast, which really go into some really creative and innovative ways to use Screencastify. For those that maybe haven't used it before, it's just a simple way to record your screen and talk or provide feedback and actually mark up a piece of work at the same time. But I learned so much when I went through and completed those certifications that I hadn't even thought of to use for Screencastify.
Rachel, I'm curious to know, and you don't have to say this on air if you're not comfortable. Have you done all of the badges on your site? I was curious.
I haven't, no.
No, that's okay.
Something that so many people have asked me, have you done all of them? And no, I haven't. And nor do I expect anyone. If you have, that is incredible. However, I always sort of advocate for that perspective of complete the ones that you use day in, day out, because anyone can sort of hold up a badge and say, yeah, I have it. I have this badge, this badge, this badge, this badge. But are you actively engaging in the community? Are you developing and sharing ideas? And ultimately part of Badger Tech is to build that community of educators that are using those tools and continuing to share and grow that app as well.
I think that's a perfect answer. And it's just like what we would say to our students in the class, right? We don't expect them to be able to use everything all the time. It's a continuous learning process. So I know even recently, a lot of different schools of thoughts are moving even from professional development to continuous professional learning, because it's that whole idea of ongoing practice. So yeah, go ahead.
I think as well, what's really nice is that all of these courses are all breakdown, bite-sized chunk training. So it's not that you need to sit there and watch a webinar for an hour, but actually it's small 30-second to 2-minute videos that you need to go through and complete some kind of task. So in the process, you're actually learning how to use it. And if it's okay, Georgina, I wanted to just quickly stop sharing my screen and
Sure.
then share something else, if that's okay.
Absolutely. We're very
and the reason I wanted to sort of pull this one out is this was created by Darren White at Ranger the Trainer. And the reason that I wanted to sort of highlight this is that it will be coming on to Badger Tech in the next week. And the reason for this is that Darren has actually built this as part of his VIA 20 Google Innovator project. And it really builds on this whole aspect of what each of these individual certifications do. But what he's actually done is created sort of a tutorial list that are interactive tutorials. So when you go through, if you're trying to learn how to provide feedback, like we mentioned before, or how to do sort of flipped learning, which a lot of us are completing right now, or how can we encourage communication and collaboration and creativity and critical thinking, there are so many valuable lessons in here. And what's really nice is that if we go back to sort of Screencastify that we mentioned before, if I just jump in here, when you go in and view that tutorial, you'll see that there's either videos that you can follow in on or sort of just specific learning that's broken down. So you can see that there's a whole book that Darren spent time putting together, and you do get those little badges as well that you complete once you complete those modules as well. So it is a fully interactive tutorial that takes you through exactly what you need.
That
So
is
I
so
just wanted to
exciting.
mention how great it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And shout out to Darren. Darren has been on the show. I think he joined us a few months ago on GEGMN with breakout rooms. That was it. So he did a session on Tip Tuesday for breakout rooms. And then, as Rachel mentioned, he was accepted into the Google Innovator Program also. And so, yeah, this is his wonderful project coming to fruition. And thank you for sharing that, Rachel. And it's exciting. It's going on your site. I didn't realize that. So that's wonderful. Definitely some amazing content in there. A lot of educators and trainers have been taking Darren's courses. And so absolutely check that out. On Twitter, you can find it at My EdTech Buddy. And then in 1 week's time, you can find it on Rachel's badgeedtech.com. So let me pop that in the chat now. Badgeedtech.com. There we go. So, Rachel, we have a few minutes left before the end of the session, and I wondered if maybe you might highlight for us. I know we were talking just briefly before we started the show about your current new normal, and you were mentioning about the masks, etc., being at school. And I wondered if you had any tips to share with educators of things that are strategies that are helping you to cope in this new normal.
Yeah, so I think in terms of the new normal, it's trying to sort of keep routine as being one of the big things, is try and, whether you're doing hybrid lessons or recorded lessons, whatever you're doing, try and keep some kind of routine. It's okay to bring something new into play, but actually sort of think about what routines do we already have that work, and continue to maintain that. I always think, if you want to try something new, and you're not in person, then try and keep it simple. Keep it simple. Either create video tutorials or written guides so that they can follow on with exactly what it is that they need to do. So it's the same for us as teachers. If we are introduced to something new, we sort of need something to follow along with. And I think, just make sure you stay connected with friends or family, and, just continue to talk. I think it's, there are so many people, if you're on Twitter, that you can reach out to and just continue to build that PLN and, use that support, because we're not doing it on our own. And, for a lot of us, this is our second time going in. So it's not the first time. It doesn't make it any easier. However, it does mean that sort of we know what didn't work that first time, and actually just try and continue to build on those positives that you had during the first time.
I love that. So many important messages there. Routine, so important. Help with structure, and also for our students, right, Rachel? So when we're in the classroom and supporting our students with well-being and wellness, supporting them with routines. What do you do in the morning? Do you start positively? Do you eat a good breakfast before you come to class, whether that's virtually or in person? So many important things about how you start and in the middle of your day and end. And so I think that's really important. And what about if you were to give a tip for educators to support them with their I guess, day-to-day classroom routines, what would you say would be something that would really, really help them in finding, what's the expression maybe I'm looking for? Calm on the seas, maybe something like that, something that would help them feel more at ease as they're going along their days.
So we had a session yesterday, and it really focuses on the 4 minutes. It's from Andy Cope, and it's the 4-minute strategy, basically. And it comes from that with anyone that you meet, whether that's your family, your friends, the students in your class, you've got 4 minutes to sort of capture them with excitement. So how are you going to spend that? When we often go and pick up someone, or we ask our children at the end of the day, how was school today? And they'll often say, oh, it was okay, it wasn't great. Or what did you learn today? Oh, nothing really, And actually it comes down to that excitement. If we came in and we just simply said, Georgina, what was the most fantastic thing that happened to you today?
I'm so excited to share that I did a training session with my teachers today.
And it's that excitement that we go in with. So actually, if we can maintain that go in positively, ultimately we are the rock for them. And, you know, even if we're struggling, I think as teachers, we're very good at putting on that brave face in front of them, but also recognizing that it is tough for them, and to continue to talk about that, and give them opportunities to share and check in, you know, little gift check-ins, or, you know, we've all seen those sort of 1 to 9, how are you feeling today check-ins are a great way as well.
And I love that idea. Actually, something that I found super successful was allowing students, giving them the choice to create check-ins for each other. So we had a rota in my tutor forum group where they created different ones, like you mentioned, like on a scale of 1 to 9, or maybe it was a this or that, or it was a which one do you prefer, but they rotated. And when they created them, I found that the students were more engaged in their form group. So yeah, there's lots of different ways to do it, but absolutely check-ins all the time, as often as needed, to make sure that students are okay. And I love what you said about going in, modeling excitement, modeling happiness. Even if, you know, we're having a tough day, it's definitely going to have that domino effect and ripple on happiness, hopefully, to some extent as you go through. So yeah, thank you for sharing those tips, Rachel. So we will close up this very brief session for today, guys. I know Rachel and I have places we have to go next. So Rachel, I'd like to thank you for joining Tip Tuesday today. I know you're super busy and you just came directly from a training session at your school. And so it's so nice of you to join us here at GEG Amman today, all the way from England. That is so wonderful. And you guys are doing such a brilliant job in GEG UK. So it's always a pleasure to connect GEGs globally. So shout out to everybody at GEG UK, and to all of our viewers who joined in the chat today, or to anybody watching after the fact. We'd like to thank you also for joining and supporting your education communities with professional learning, such as Rachel's badgedtech.com site, and everything else that you're doing in education to support your community. So stay safe, everybody, and we will see you on next Tuesday for another Tip Tuesday. So take care, guys, and thanks again, Rachel.
Thank you. Bye.